For people with learning disability, they absolutely love Britain's Got Talent. Like, it's the highlight of the year. The judges are amazing, and everybody wants to be on it.
Hello! Welcome to Britain's Got Talent.
It's a pleasure to be here.
We got an email, and it was, yeah, you have an audition in front of the judges. And yeah, it's just like a pinch me moment.
Voice Reform is a group with people with disabilities, and we are here to show you what we can do.
We got them all together and were like, we've been rehearsing for like a long time, because they just thought, to be fair, they're just so great. They were just like, yeah, we're just rehearsing for a show, or like, and they just, just screamed. Like, it was just the best ever.
What's your most memorable moment then from that whole experience?
Got to be the golden buzzer moment.
That was incredible, wasn't it?
I loved it so much that I'm going to do it!
That was just, my face gets shown on that clip. It's quite funny, and I'm just look like the happiest person in the world. Literally gives me goosebumps now, like seeing how happy they were and emotional, like all of this hard work had like come down to that moment. For them, this is like the beat. This is everything.
Moment. Yeah.
This is everything. It couldn't get any better.
I think you can see that though in the faces and the joy, genuine like stripped back joy and happiness of everybody. Before you start this episode, please can you click subscribe below and follow our social handles in the description. It's a massive help and it keeps you up to date with all the exciting announcements from the podcast. Cheers, Kim, for coming on. Thanks very much for giving us some time today.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. So we always start the podcast in the same way, so it's a bit of a challenge for you, really. I haven't spoken to you about this before.
Okay.
So I'll give you like a minute, 2 minutes tops. And all I want you to do is kind of take me through your life to date, so from right at the start to exactly where you are now. And because I'm forcing you to do it in a minute or 2 minutes absolute tops, it's going to force you to bring out important bits, so you don't just go chatting about how great you were at school for 5 minutes or whatever it is. So are you up for the challenge?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's throw it in. So give me a minute, 2 minutes of Kim.
Okay, so where do we start? Grew up, I was a younger sister to my older brother, who was very talented footballer, and so I lived my life sort of in his shadows a little bit, I would say.
Yeah.
And always travelling around with him with football, things like that. And then my teenage years were enjoyable, I think, but then probably went into a little bit of a rebellious stage, as some of us teenage girls do.
Always.
And probably caused my mum and dad some, troubles. And then I sort of got myself on the straight and narrow, went to uni, got a degree, didn't really know what I wanted to do, was probably quite underconfident, maybe looking back had anxiety, but probably didn't know at the time that that's what it was. Got a degree, but didn't really love what I was doing. It was sociology, but didn't really know what I wanted to do. Went into do some volunteer work with adults with disabilities, and basically just absolutely fell in love with it and found my purpose in life. Just put my all into that, working for a company. Went on, had a few important life factors that got thrown at me. For example, I got diagnosed with MS at 27, just before I got married. And then I had a baby, which was amazing. And then I set up a business, which I'm now running, which is absolutely amazing, and I'm loving life. And that probably brings us to now.
I think you've done all right. I'm looking at the timer over there. That was good. That was good. Some people go on for about 10 minutes and they don't even get half the way down what they've done. So, no, that's good. Good. Happy days. So, a really interesting story, and I've known you for a long time as well. So, there's even stuff that I want to know as well that I'm interested in. So, We'll get into it. So, just going back to the start then. So, you mentioned about like your upbringing and stuff like that. So, take me through your kind of early years then, like family and stuff like that.
Yeah, early years. I mean, I was always the youngest of the family in terms of even all of my cousins, everything like that. And like I said, I absolutely love my brother to bits, but I probably was always felt like a little bit I was in his shadows because he was a very talented footballer, and I probably didn't really have like a hobby like that as such. Like I was good at sport, but I never really like had anything that I was like completely committed to and fantastic at. So without, wanting to sound like, oh, poor me or anything, that was probably just how I really remember like my childhood. I had a great childhood. Yeah. My mum and dad are still together, which is great. They had their ups and downs quite a lot throughout my childhood. And so that was some tough times back then. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of like a bit of the summary really of it.
Yeah, so can you remember like when you were like younger and stuff, obviously you've gone on to do the Born to Perform and it's going really, really well. We'll get onto that in a minute, but can you remember sort of growing up, you mentioned about your kind of upbringing and family and stuff, and from what I know about your family from like an outside, well not an outsider, but someone that's known you for a long time looking in, like your family were brilliant, like tons of energy, just so nice people, always really welcoming and stuff like that. So you mentioned kind of being in your brother's shadow a little bit. Is that just because you were a bit quieter?
Yeah, maybe just because I was younger, and I think my dad had some like mental issues when we were younger. He doesn't mind me sharing it, I'm sure, and probably that affected me more because it happened close to when I was born and things like that. So he suffered quite a lot with like bouts of depression and anxiety, but he comes across as a very eccentric person. So it's like, we're learning more and more nowadays, and we're talking more and more about it, that the people that you see with the biggest smiles often have, the lowest of the lows. Whatever, So I think I did witness a lot of that throughout my childhood as well, that probably people had no idea.
Do you remember it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because some people can't remember last week, let alone
I remember quite a lot of it. And I think it was tough. I think my mum and dad did have a lot of ups and downs, but I am proud that they sort of made it through in the end. Yeah,
they're an incredible couple, aren't they? Yeah. So when you were younger then, did you have any, I know you went to uni and stuff, but did you have any aspirations to do anything else? Did you know what you wanted to do when you're growing up? No,
and I think that's really important that I make that point, because a lot of people think, oh yeah, you just know what you want to do and things like that. I didn't, and I think I used to think, oh, I'm not really sure, like I should know what I want to do, and I can't imagine having a job where it doesn't feel like a job and things like that. And then I just sort of fell into what I do now, really, through my dad, because my mum, like I said, my mum and dad are so supportive, and I think he knew somebody that could get me some experience. So I was like,
was that a Cube?
Yeah. So at the time it was, and then I was probably still quite shy then. I was a bit like, oh, I don't really want to go, but pushed myself to do it. And like I'll never forget like my first day going into like that kind of job and literally being like, oh my God, this is me. Like this is what I was made to do.
So you found it quick. Like although you were nervous about going in and a bit anxious about it, when you first started it, you knew.
Yeah, I was like 21 and something just clicked, and I think after that, that's when obviously my confidence then grew, because it was like, oh my God, I'm actually quite good at this.
Yeah.
And then it would be like, oh, do you want to volunteer? And I used to say, well, yeah. They're like, oh, like one day a week. I was like, no, I want to come in every day.
Yeah.
They're like, wow. Like I was like, yeah, I want to come in every day. I want to be here all the time. And I think that was where the passion started. And
so what about it do you think kind of got you going?
I think like helping others and seeing others better themselves, I think is just a massive thing. And like we were saying, like with my family, that's another huge thing that I've sort of grown up with, is being happy for other people when they're doing well, and seeing them progress and things like that, and make it knowing that you're helping them is just, it's no greater feeling really for me.
I share that as well, because there's been different things that have happened with our businesses and stuff, and actually when you look at some of the wins that we've had and some of the good things that we've had, what I actually get more emotional about and what I remember is actually the people and what they've achieved using us as a workplace. You know, they could go and get another job anywhere, most probably. You know, it's maybe luck that they've found themselves here, but they haven't. They've found themselves here and they've done it here. Like the house, you know, purchasing the houses and having the kids and all this sort of stuff. It's like those are the bits that you remember, really. Like, for me.
I just love seeing people, you know, reaching their dreams and doing better, and also their confidence improving. Because, like I said, like I've touched on that with me. You know, once I found my niche and my passion, and then it was like my confidence grew, and you know, after that, I think things just get better in general. So we've got like a young girl who's been doing a placement with us recently, and like it just makes me smile thinking about her, because she's just come on so much, and I feel like it's so important that we give her that time to, you know, develop herself. And then now we're taking her on as an apprentice, and just the way I'll like have little chats with her and say, oh, can you plan this? And the next day she came in and she'd like prepared a load of stuff at home, and you know, and led this session, and just seeing her and her confidence in front of everyone, I was just like, that's
sometimes you just need to give people that, because a lot of people have got the confidence, they've got it there, it's just that they don't get the environment or the belief to go and do it. And it's down to giving them a little bit of space and a bit of an opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So with that then, so that was at like 21 you mentioned when you started at Cube.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about that time when you were at Cube. So what were you doing? What was the kind of day to day? What, you know, you mentioned that seeing people progress and stuff is what got you energized and passionate about wanting to come in every day, but what was the job?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously starting, I was only 21, but I think with me, I kind of just put myself forward for everything, and you know, nothing was too much of an ask for me. And I think just like day-to-day stuff, taking the adults like out into the community, running sessions, you know, just trying to provide them with meaningful kind of day-to-day activities and things like that.
And what kind of like disabilities and stuff were you having to sort of deal with when you were doing that?
Yeah, a lot of disabilities, from quite profoundly disabled. So I was, no matter whatever they sort of offered training, I was the first one. Yep, I want to be there, I want to do it. So we did, you know, like peg train, so feeding through the stomach, things like that. That we used to hoist some of the clients and do a lot of personal care and stuff like that. So yes, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, a lot of different disabilities.
That's really varied. And going into that, like some people I think would find that quite overwhelming, just throwing themselves into that. Like, so I know a couple of people that have gone into kind of like care work and stuff, and they've just not lasted. They've been surprised at how difficult it is, and certain situations they felt uncomfortable and stuff like that. How did you cope with all of that? Because obviously you're 21. You know, you're not like 31. 40 experience, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, like I said, something just felt so natural for me there. And I think just perhaps having the responsibility of like knowing that you're having to help those people, just made me probably push myself to be. It just never fazed me, but also like I think that was part of growing up as well with my parents. We were always we have like a few friends, family friends have disabilities and stuff like that, and my dad and my mum were always so welcoming with you know, people with additional needs, and I think that probably rubbed off onto me, though I was just never fazed by it.
Didn't know it at the time, but
yeah,
they're training you up for it.
Exactly.
Getting it. Okay, so when you were at Cube then, so you were there for how long?
About 10 years.
10 years. So did you go straight from Cube to then think, you know what, I want to start Born to Perform? Was there anything in between that we're missing out on?
Yeah, there's so I got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis when I was 27.
So you've been there 6 years at that point?
Yeah, I basically, it's, you know, it's a long sort of story of it, but to cut a long story short, I went like blind in my eye.
Yeah.
Just started getting blurred vision, and then had, you know, just thought, oh, I've got an eye infection, maybe I've got something in there, and obviously
last thing you're going to think is it's anything serious. Like especially at an age.
Never,
yeah.
like never even would have entered my head.
Just from outsider looking in again, I know I'm not a medical person, but I know symptoms and what MS does. My partner's granddad's got MS, has had it for a long time, so I know about it. But again, it's not something that you think is going to be apparent in somebody that's like mid-20s.
Yeah, that's the funny thing, but it actually is. It's the most common age to be diagnosed as is really my age and as a woman.
Really?
But obviously, by looking at me, it's an invisible illness.
Yeah.
So the only people that you know about having MS are really probably people that are walking with a stick or are in a wheelchair, because probably nobody really speaks openly about it.
Yeah.
Obviously, I do, but
so for people that don't know much about MS at all, so like, what is MS, and how was your experience in terms of when you found out you had it?
Yeah, so MS, it's a neurological condition. It affects your nervous system, and basically it's your immune system attacks itself and strips the lining of your nerves, so that then your nerves are obviously not, if you think of it kind of like a cable, like an iPhone cable, when they break, it's like though that wire from the middle being exposed. So then obviously you can imagine what that kind of does to the body. So I've got something called relapsing remitting MS. So it's like the most common but the first stage, and you basically have a relapse, so times where you go through some kind of serious symptoms, and then you kind of get back up, and then you might have a stage where you're remitting, which is you're kind of at a steady level, and then you might have another relapse. So I've probably had about 5 relapses altogether, all of kind of varying difficulty. So I've had kind of like facial paralysis. I've had like my arm, like can't feel anything in my arms, but most of it's been in sort of my face. But I am actually on really good medication now, and that seems at the moment to be controlling it. So
you were 27 when you found out?
Yeah.
So just take me through, like, I know it's a little while ago, but you seem to have a good memory, so that's good. You've gone back further. So when the day you found out, just go through that.
I will never literally ever forget that. It's like they call it like a light bulb moment, don't they? I remember parking. I remember exactly where we parked at the hospital. I was with my mum, and I remember they'd called me back in, and then I was sort of getting a bit paranoid, thinking like, oh. And then I was like, no, just brushed it off. My mum was like, no, it'll all be fine. And then I went into this room, and the neurologist at the time, the way he delivered it was actually, like, now when I think about it, it's just so bad. And I have fed this back to my MS nurses to say, like, you need to improve on it, because we just kind of sat there, and he was just like, so yeah, he just literally just said, oh, you've got multiple sclerosis. And I was like, I actually think I almost like laughed, like when you're so,
I'm not believing it.
Didn't even believe it. I was like, which is obviously crazy now when I think about it. And I think, and then I saw my mum's face, and I think you always know when your mum's worried to be worried. But they didn't really give me any more information. It was kind of, that's what it is, and it was kind of off on your way, which was, pretty scary at the time. And I remember like walking to meet my dad, who had driven us and dropped us off, as he does. And I remember, and all I said to my mum was, oh, well, I suppose, it could have been a brain tumour, and they said I could have, I might be dying in 6 months. And she was like, yeah. And that was kind of really the stance I took on it from there. Like, it was obviously just, and that's just worked for me. It's a coping mechanism. And I think just being grateful for what I have and having a life now, it just makes me be able to deal with anything.
Do you know what MS was when they said you've got MS?
Yeah.
Did you have did you have I know you said you didn't really know what they were going to say.
Yeah.
You didn't really have a clue what they were going to say when you went in, but when they said you've got MS.
Yeah, I'd had, it had been mentioned before, but I very much just brushed that, and I was like, well, it's not
going to be that, is it?
It's not that, like, that's silly, because I know of a few people, and they, like we were saying, are older people, but are like wheelchair users and stuff, so obviously, as soon as I got told that, I'm just like, my first instinct is like, oh my God, I'm going to be a wheelchair, like, and not be able to move my arms, move my legs and things like that, but it's so different from that, and that's what I've been learning more and more since the day I was diagnosed, and that's what I'm trying to raise so much more awareness about it, because it's not a death sentence, and there's so many people like me that are my age, or I'm 33 now, but like early 20s, mid 20s, that are getting diagnosed with MS, that are probably having those same feelings that I had, and they really don't need to, because it is okay. Yeah.
So how do you think that? How did your partner react to that? Like, what were your family like? Maybe when it all sunk in.
Yeah, I think they probably hid some of it from me. I'm sure it was hard. Have you spoken about that to like family and partner and stuff? Yeah, when I've so my husband, I suppose, like a lot of men probably just kind of take it on the chin, and he was just like, don't worry, I'll just be there for you, and he always has been. He always comes to all of my appointments and things like that. And he is very supportive of everything I do. He ran the marathon for MS.
I saw that. Yeah, he seems like a really nice guy.
Yeah. So that was really amazing, and it just shows the support. And I think my mum, a few years later, I remember her saying to me like, "Oh, you're." Obviously, at the time, you didn't know, but anyone that would bring it up, I would just cry. And I was like, but I never saw that.
Right.
So I think they like hid that from me to kind of protect me at the time. So, but yeah, I'm sure it's hard.
Yeah. I was going to say, for it's a huge bit of news. Like, so you mentioned your mum did she get upset in front of you often about it, or?
No, she didn't. But a few years later, when obviously things had obviously calmed, and I'd really taken this whole raising awareness thing on, she did say to me in the early stages she just couldn't cope. She was so worried and would cry to everyone, but I never saw that.
Yeah, protecting you, I suppose, isn't she?
Yeah.
So physically, so you mentioned about that you get numbness and you can have facial paralysis and stuff like that. So, I mean, how often does this happen? Is it something regular, or?
So I have certain symptoms that are more persistent, but a relapse is something that would probably last for a month or so, and then would get better.
Okay.
So I haven't had a relapse for a few years now. I'm on medication, and that seems to be working. I have an MRI every year, and that basically checks if there's any new lesions on your brain, which are is scarring to your brain. And the past 2 years, I haven't had any new ones, which is really great. But my main symptom is fatigue, which is really, really frustrating.
So talk to everyone about that. How does that kind of affect the daily life? Because that's something that I didn't really know. I didn't know that was a part of MS, was sort of the fatigue element.
Fatigue is really hard to explain to somebody if they've never had it. It's completely different to tiredness. It's like an all-consuming exhaustion that you feel from the inside of your body, and it's the only thing that you can do to solve it is to just literally sleep, and your whole body just shuts down, and you just can't push through it, basically. So what you have to do, which I'm learning, is you have to live your life in you have to be really conscious of what uses your energy, and what you should use it on, and whether it's worth it.
Yeah.
And
so is it brought on by you giving out a load of energy to something, and then that's more likely then you're going to get... Yeah,
definitely. But it can be anything, even
mental and physical.
Mental and physical.
Okay.
Yeah, mental is a big one. So probably after this I'll be exhausted, because when your brain is kind of just non-stop thinking, and also in what I do as a job, it doesn't help. But
it seems I was going to say, to cope with all of that and do all the things that you do in the way that you do it, with the mental, we were talking before you come on about the mind never switching off, and that mental stimulation, and also the physical stuff that you do with the job as well.
Yeah, it's just a constant you're constantly weighing up what's worth using your energy for. So I'm usually in bed asleep by 8, half 8 at night, so I don't really do anything in the evenings in the week, because I'll have work the next day. I have to work out when to wash my hair, because if I do it in the morning, then that's going to use up quite a lot of the energy for the day, and that will cut into it. So it's there's something called the spoon theory, and it actually makes a lot of sense. And someone with MS or a chronic illness, they get a certain amount of spoons a day, and for example, going to work uses up 5 spoons, washing your hair uses 3 spoons, walking to a shop is 2 spoons, blah, 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 blah. And basically, someone with like MS gets a lot less than a normal person.
Yeah.
So I basically have to work out what I want to use those spoons on.
Yeah.
And that's just how I live my life. And a lot of people around me now, you know, my parents, everyone, even people at work go, save your spoons, you know, don't use your spoons on that. It's not worth it. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. So it's really just conserving your energy and using it for, you know, the right thing.
See, that's a lot to deal with, surely. Like that's making sure you're like analysing every bit of every day, planning every bit of every day, you know, sleeping at certain times to kind of, I'm guessing you have a nap and that gives you more spoons.
Yeah. Basically, it's like a battery. So, but people with MS or a chronic condition, you know, fatigue or something, start with probably about 50% or 40% of what somebody else would. So it depletes a lot quicker. And then, so you just have to keep like kind of charging that battery. And then if you use too much of the battery, if you go over the battery, if you use 110% or something, that cuts into your next day.
Yeah.
So then you have to be really mindful of what you do the next day, and that you've not got anything on, you know. So yeah, it's just something that I have got used to, and if, you know, at the end of the day, I can deal with that.
Is that just automatic now?
Yeah, but sometimes I get it wrong, you know, of course.
How's that work then when you've got a boy as well? So, you know, that's probably one of the biggest the biggest energy drains, mind drains that you can have. He's having a son or a daughter, isn't it? Yeah,
so Blake is coming up to 4 in November, and I'm very, very lucky with him, to be fair. He's very, he's more of like a sensitive kind of soul. Yeah. He's not kind of one of these boys that's kind of bashful and like boisterous or anything. So I think he does have some.
He gets it.
Yeah,
a bit,
he definitely has an understanding, and he's used to. Oh, mummy needs to sleep, and he'll come over and like give me a little kiss on the head and stuff when I'm napping, like, and he'll like put the blanket on me. And
that's crazy that he's 4 and he's already got some emotional bandwidth to understand that even if he's not noticing he's really doing it, it's automatic for him that I need to make ssure.
Yeah, he's got that caring nature, and I think it's just that's something that, he's just so used to. But yeah, it's tough. Like having kids anyway is hard, and keeping up with them and work and, you know, all the stresses of life. But I think a massive thing is having the support of my family and my husband and things like that. My mum and dad are absolutely incredible with helping me and Paul out and having Blake. So yeah, I don't know what I would do without them, to be fair. They're a massive help.
Yeah, I think anyone that does anything, you know, you've got loads of stuff going on. Clearly what you said there around managing your MS properly and planning those days and being a co-founder of a successful business, doing that for yourself for the first time and learning your way through. Obviously everything that's gone on with the Britain's Got Talent stuff, which we'll come on to in a minute as well, plus just normal life. Just normal getting through life. It's hard enough as it is sometimes. So, yeah, you know, that's the part that I was really interested in, is just how do you manage it? I mean, it's hard enough for not a normal person, sorry. Yeah. Hard enough for somebody that's got a full capacity to deal with.
Yeah.
There's days where I just think, fuck this, I'm bollocksed, you know, and I've got 100% battery, probably maybe a bit more than usual. But, you know, to start on 50% and have to plan your way through with that many things that are unplannable, like having kids and stuff, having a business, you can only plan a certain amount of that. Like there's elements that will just come up and that will just happen, won't they? So I don't know how you do it, to be honest.
No, there's a lot that's, you know, life is unpredictable, but maybe, it's funny that I kind of chose this kind of life like this.
You chose a more difficult path, but a very meaningful path.
But I think that I get so much from it.
Yeah.
And I think like that's what my family and all my support system understand, and they're kind of like, because some people might go, well, why'd you do that then to yourself? But what I get out of it is so much more, and that's what keeps me going.
No, I completely get that, because, you know, I'll be speaking to my mum and I'll be sitting there eating some dinner. They'll come over for Sunday dinner or something. I'll be sitting there and she'll look at me and she'll be like, what's up with you? And I'll look like shit probably. I'll be tired and I'll be like, yeah, I'm all right. And she'll be like, nah, why'd you do it? Like, why are you, when did you go to bed? What time do you wake up? And I'm like, I get up at 5:30 in the morning, I go to bed at this time, this is what I do. And she's like, I just don't get, why do you have to do so much stuff? I'm like, that's just me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to do it, I choose to do it.
Yeah.
Why do you do this extra stuff? Why do you do this? Why do you do that? And I'm like, I get itchy feet when I'm not doing anything. Like, I'm task oriented. I want to go from one thing to another, even if it's tiring. I get that new little bit of energy, and then I go with it. I can't sit there like Sophie, my partner, will say, well, oh, you know, we'll have a chill out this afternoon. It's like, that's my nightmare. I can't do that. Like, I can watch telly and I can chill out, but like just sitting there doing not a lot where my mind's not going, I struggle with that. I struggle with that more than I struggle with dealing with doing loads of stuff, because it's just not me.
Yeah, I completely get that.
We spoke about before we turned everything on, didn't we? About like ideas coming to you at stupid times in the night and all this sort of stuff. But it's just, I think when you run your own business and you've got a lot of stuff on, I just don't think you ever really switch off. You don't. No, you don't. And especially if you love it as well.
When you love it, yeah, and it doesn't feel like work.
That's
like
just life,
nothing
isn't it?
It's not work to me at all. It's just.
So we spoke about Born to Perform. Just touched upon Born to Perform then. So like, what, through a few years on from when you found out you had MS, or what, 3.5 years ish, maybe?
Yeah.
If I'm getting my dates right,
Yeah,
and I can
about
count.
that, yeah.
You decided to, and you started Born to Perform and co-founded it with Charlotte and Clemmy.
Yeah.
So how did that idea come about? Like, give us that story, because I'm interested in that. Was it like a brainstorm in the pub? Was it over a dining room table? We should do this, I think. Or what was it?
It was quite a funny one. We were... So we'd kind of like, we hadn't lost contact, but we obviously weren't working together anymore. We'd all kind of gone our own sort of separate ways. I'd had Blake and things. And then I think like, I just messaged the girls one day, said, oh, like really miss doing like the dance clubs like together. Shall we like meet up and have a little chat about, we just wanted to literally just set up this 1 hour club, and we were just going to do it in the Boughton Village Hall.
Yeah.
So we ended up having like a little, it wasn't like even a meeting, it was just like, come round. I was at my parents' house and we just sat in the front room. We were like, yeah, let's set it up, let's just do it. And then I think we were like, right, okay, well, what do we need to do? So we got someone to design a logo, and we were like, Born to Perform, that's it.
Who had the idea for Born to Perform?
Well, I have to say, it actually was me.
Was it actually?
Yeah, it actually was. And then I think Charlotte added on the dance school section. So yeah, I'm quite proud of that one. And then we ended up we did a meeting in the pub. So yeah, that's
Nice.
why I laughed when you said that.
Down the local,
yeah. And just took the laptop down, and we just, that's really where it all started. And it was just going to be, you know, it wasn't like a money making thing, it was just that we missed doing it together. We loved working together, and yeah, it just started from there. And then so we set it up, we like branded it, you know, we each put like 50 quid in, and got the logo, and set up a Facebook page, and just made a bit of hype about it. And then yeah, it just went from there. Then we went into lockdown. We did one session which was really popular, which was like, oh, it was so lovely. And then went into lockdown, and it was like, right, okay. And then, you know, like we said earlier, always wanting to keep busy or stuff like that, we're like, let's do some online sessions. And we ended up literally doing an online session every day for
I saw those online sessions all the time. Yeah. I didn't have a clue what it was. Like, I knew you were doing something, obviously it was new, and I've not had a part of anything, so I didn't know what it all was. And I just found myself tuning into like Facebook Live, everybody dancing around and having a good time and stuff. It was, and I still didn't really know what it was.
Yeah, we just had so much fun, and I think that's like with
DJ and stuff,
running your own
someone's
business.
Garden and stuff.
Yeah, I was DJ Kim in the garden on these decks. But it just brought, honestly, so much like attention to it, and we would. But I think it was just because we were just having fun.
Yeah.
We'd do like comedy nights, and like Charlotte and Clemmy would be like chasing each other around, like with policeman hats, and they just thought it was absolutely hilarious. But we just did it all for free because we were just like, at the end of the day, you know, we just wanted to keep everyone busy, and everyone was just at home, and we had a laugh. And so obviously through all of that, through lockdown, that's where we kind of met so many people. So as soon as we came out of lockdown, everyone was wanting us to do even more things in person. Yeah.
So talk to me about, if someone said to you, what is, I know what Born to Perform does, yeah?
Yeah.
What does it stand for? What's the kind of like DNA? What's it about?
So many things, but pure positivity is like positive vibes is just us through and through, with absolutely everything to do with Born to Perform. inclusivity, so everyone is welcome, acceptance, so, you know, people with learning disabilities being accepted for who they are and being embraced, you know, we're not even just raising awareness anymore of disabilities. People are being accepted. It's not just like, oh, there are people out there with autism, you know. This is part of our life now. We all need to really get on the bandwagon and realise that these guys are absolutely fantastic and just the same as us and are capable of so much.
Yeah.
So yeah, just happiness.
Do you know what? Whenever I see any of the posts or any of the videos that go up like that, you do automatically just smile, don't you? Even if you don't know what's going on, you just automatically tune in and you just smile because everyone's just having a good time.
Exactly.
And I think that's a really good like people create a business because they want to make money, and look, fair enough, like everyone's got to make a living and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think when you've done it for a different reason, a more meaningful reason, I think that element will come anyway.
Yeah.
If it's done properly, that element will come naturally because you've got everybody that are involved in it, just like in the DNA, living and breathing it every single day.
Yeah, definitely.
So what happens between you, Charlotte, and Clemmy then? Who does what? So you made the name, but what? You can't be surviving on that for years.
Definitely not. No, the girls. I don't know what we sometimes do pinch ourselves for, like how lucky we are because we are like the best of friends, but we're obviously business partners as well.
Yeah.
Any
arguments?
No, never arguments, but of
disagreements.
Of course we disagree on things.
Give me your worst disagreement. What happened?
Oh, I don't know what the worst disagreement would be. Probably like not even anything bad, like what will go in the show. Yeah. I want Beauty and the Beast and they want Wicked, and I'm like...
Is it like a Monopoly board moment where you're like, well, sod you, I'm going?
Yeah, no, do you know what? It's not. It's surprising because people do say that to us, that we're like... I think we're just good communicators, hopefully, and I think we just, because we all share the same love for what we do, it just works. So yeah, it all starts. So I'm more of like the kind of logistical, running like the health and social care side, you know, the policies, procedures, all of that kind of side. Charlotte is more of, I mean, we all do those bits together, but Charlotte is more of like the dance side, Clemmy is more of the musical theatre side, but we all just have our fair share of what we do, and we don't have set rules of who does this and who does that, but it's just one of those things that we just each put the same amount of effort in, and it just works.
I think when you've got something that works really well, like what you've got there, like for us, the shareholders that are involved in our company are all different, like literally completely different. You know, John is different to me, like in probably 95% of ways. But what we share is the DNA and the culture and the why of why we want our businesses to succeed and what we're trying to achieve. So he might go about it a different way to what I do, but the reality is we're on the same road. We're just going about it. We're driving in different cars. That's all it is. As long as you're going in the right direction, that's the key. And I think when you mentioned there about your key kind of pillars that you mentioned there, and that you all share that belief and that passion, that clearly comes through. Mm-hmm. Just because somebody's got a different way of going about it, as long as you've got a little bit of, you know, communication and maturity to say, well, you know, you can't get my own way every single time.
Yeah.
You know, that's actually quite a good idea, Charlotte. Maybe we'll go with that this time. Like, everyone's on the same page, aren't they? It's okay to have different ways.
I think it's important to have different ways as well, because there'll be things that I'll sort of, we'll be talking, it's WhatsApp group, it's all this, or whether we're in person.
Don't get me started. Voice notes in WhatsApp groups I'm awful for. Like, I must send like 100 a day, probably.
Yeah, well, it's just so much quicker, isn't it?
Yeah.
But, I think it's important that we all have different styles of the way we work, because there'll be things that I will think that Charlotte or Clemmy will come out with, and I think, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
We all have different brains completely, don't we? So I think that's also what makes it so successful, is because we've got different views and different experiences of life that we can bring to the table.
I think that's really important for all aspects of life, like friends, business, everything. It's important to have a bit of variation. As long as everyone's on the same page,
yes,
variation's good. So Britain's Got Talent then. So you've been kicking ass with Born to Perform, online, in person. It's all going great. Everyone's enjoying it. And someone's had the idea to register for Britain's Got Talent, right?
Yeah. Why not just add another?
So tell us about how that all came about. Who had the idea? How did it come about? What was the kind of beginning of that process? Because we know about the end of the process.
Yeah,
It's recently just happened,
Britain's Got Talent, for people will know, like in the learning disability community, is the biggest of the biggest. Like, it's the number one. I know, like, perhaps some people probably think now it's had its day, but for people with learning disability, they absolutely love Britain's Got Talent. Like, it's the highlight of the year. The judges are amazing, and everybody wants to be on it. So, you know, it's naturally going to always be what we want
talked about,
and what we would like to strive for. So so we decided to apply, and it's actually been going on for a few years now, because the first year was cancelled, but we were supposed to be on that, and that was because of COVID. So back and forth chats with the researchers, the Zoom calls with producers.
How does it all work, like the behind the scenes? That's stuff I'm interested in. Like, we all see what happens on the telly and it's brilliant, but how do you even just register online and then they pick you out? I don't know.
So I just registered online, and then they got in contact and said, we really like, and then they kind of do some research into you. And because we'd
been, no guarantees then that you're going to get seen.
Oh God,
even
no.
Off camera and stuff.
No. So there's a lot of people you have to go through, see the producers vetting you for so many things before you even get to.
So I didn't even know even that. It's like you see it on the telly and everyone's lining up, and it's like it's kind of alluded to the fact that everyone just turns up.
I mean, I'm sure there might be that side of it, but there's the producers, like, you obviously, because think of how many people want to be on it, and how much time.
Logistically, it's not going to happen.
It's just not going to happen. So there is a lot more behind the scenes than what kind of is shown on TV. But so lots of kind of Zoom calls with Charlotte, Clemmy and I think probably just showing how passionate we are about it as well. Videos of our guys dancing, lots of different things, showing, you know, you name it. If you saw the WhatsApp groups with the researchers, you'd be like, oh my God, like there's so much back and forth. But everyone at BGT, like the crew, the producers, everyone, I cannot speak any more highly of. Like, they have just been how we want our guys to be treated. They are so welcoming. They've just been so welcoming to them, so treated them with so much respect and dignity throughout. But it's been a journey, I'm not gonna lie. So you
went through all the Zoom calls and stuff like that. What was the moment like, and what happened, and where were you, and who you with when you finally kind of got the call or the email or the video call or whatever it was to say you've made it on?
That was, I mean, it's quite late notice before we were on. They leave you hanging a lot, and you message and then they don't reply for ages, so you've got to kind of be putting your foot down a bit with them and kind of saying, have you heard back? So I don't think we found out until like December, so probably a few weeks before that it was for certain. And I think we got an email and it was, you have a audition in front of the judges. And it's just like a pinch me moment, and just like, oh my God.
So who got the email? All of you?
Yeah.
What happened then? What did you do when you told everybody?
Well, we kept it quiet from the students because everything was extremely confidential, and it is with BGT. So we didn't say anything because we didn't want it. We couldn't let it get out, and we'd signed all these contracts, and we were like,
But you were itching to say something, weren't you?
Oh my God,
that's huge.
Of course, It was like we were so excited, couldn't believe it was actually finally happening. And there was loads and loads of paperwork that we had to do. Like crazy amounts of paperwork. So, and then it was when we told the guys, I think we only told them like a week before. And they they just like screamed.
How did you do it?
We got them all together and were like, we've been rehearsing for like a long time, because they just thought, to be fair, they're just so great. They were just like, we're just rehearsing for a show or like a performance. Didn't really say what it was for. And they just screamed. Like it was just the best ever. And the audition day, we went down in January the 20th, and we hired a coach, and they went down. We left at 4 a.m. from Kingsthorpe, and it was just one of those, like, you can probably imagine when you're going to like watch a football match or play in a final or something.
Got a lot of anticipation, haven't you, and nerves and stuff.
Yes, it was one of the best days ever.
Long day.
Very long day.
So where did they film?
The London Palladium.
Okay.
But there's a lot of other filming that goes on around London and different places, because actually the London Palladium's not very big at all. So there's other places we were back and forth on shuttle buses all over London, doing filming all
so
day.
So did they take you with like a film crew out or something and meet you? And
yeah, we got filmed sort of just walking down Regent Street, and
what was all that like? Surreal.
Very surreal, because you've got obviously everyone just...
You've come from a coach in Kingsthorpe down to getting film walking down Regent Street, like...
all having to like just act naturally and like laugh, and obviously these guys, like, our students just make everything that we do just so much fun, and it's never put on, because we genuinely have that much fun every day. It was just this time we were being filmed, and I think the film crew just thought like we were just crazy, but they loved it.
Yeah. So what's your most memorable moment then from that whole experience?
Oh, got to be the golden buzzer moment.
I loved it so much that I'm going to do...
That was just, I mean, my face gets shown on that clip. It's quite funny, and I'm just look like the happiest person in the world. That was like a real...
Did you know it was coming?
No.
Do you actually... Because this is kind of like behind the scenes thingy here. Like, I always thought with that sort of stuff, surely they must know. Like, it must be...
No, so...
Not rehearsed, but do you know what I mean? Like, they must give you a little bit of an inkling that something's going to happen so you can kind of be ready.
Well, probably about like 15 seconds before, maybe.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
wow.
because I was down the front with Clemmy, and one of the runners came down and said, we think something might happen, we think something might happen.
Okay.
This was while the judges were talking. And then, we were just like, obviously in an absolute, like, it was the most surreal feeling in the world, just standing backstage. We couldn't get anywhere near the stage because Hampton Deck's bodyguard was like stood there, and it was COVID, like still really like big in COVID times.
Yeah.
So we were like trying to sort of get forward, and he was like, no. And then next minute they were like, oh yeah, we think something's gonna happen. I was going, no, it's too late. And then they were like, no, it's gonna. And then it just went boom, and then all the gold like confetti just came down. Like our guys, like obviously on stage, and I've just never ever like literally gives me goosebumps now, like seeing how happy they were and emotional. Like all of this hard work had like come down to that moment, and it was just so special.
If you look at pictures of it and you like zoom in on like stills of it and stuff, like the faces of all of the students are like, it's like, yeah,
it's the ultimate dream,
isn't it? It's like it's amazing.
Like I said, like the BGT is the ultimate dream for them, because they've got learning disabilities. They won't necessarily go through all the things that we do in life. But of course they can have get married and have children, but not all of them will do that. A lot of the guys won't. They don't have that capacity. So for them, this is like the beat. This is everything.
Moment. Yeah.
This is everything. It couldn't get any better.
I think you can see that though in the faces and the joy, genuine like stripped back joy and happiness of everybody.
Yeah. It was just the most incredible thing ever.
So how did that make you feel then? Like, because if you think when you go all the way back, like that wouldn't have happened unless that idea would have been had in your sitting room with Clemmy and Charlotte, and think, you know what, we're going to do like a little do down Boughton Hall. Like you wouldn't have been in that position other than that. You know what I mean? A long time's gone to get you to that point, but you would have never been there unless it was just one little idea. So for you, how did you feel like in that moment?
Yeah, I think it's like a crazy moment, because like you said, everything has kind of come down to that exact moment, and you're like in London, BGT with gold raining all down you kind of think, it was, even for us, like this is it, like this is the best feeling ever, because why we do what we do is to make our students happy, and that was the happiest they could ever be. So it just felt like the most incredible feeling in the world.
So that particular clip we spoke about it before you come on, it was had like just under like 3 million views, like crazy. And like for looking on again all over social media, for that, even now, like you're saying, it's still getting shared around, different things happening, and like you had interviews with like TV, Lorraine, and media. It was all over newspapers locally. It was in the Mirror. Like you were everywhere for like a week and a half. Like that must have been a bit of a that was like strange experience.
It was very strange, because we'd had to keep it quiet for so long that we'd got a golden. We couldn't obviously tell anyone. So that was in January, and then it was aired in April. So all that time,
it's a long time.
We had to keep it quiet, and you almost like play it down a little bit in your head, because no one else is sort of saying anything about it. You're kind of like, obviously it was amazing, but it's not out there yet. So
Yeah.
when it got aired, it was, it just went absolutely crazy. Like the phone and everything, like the emails just going bing, 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 bing. Like you physically could not keep up.
Yeah.
Like I've never ever had that feeling. I used to think like when people on Instagram and go, oh, sorry, I can't get back to you all. I used to think, oh, that's a load of rubbish.
Yeah,
of course
you've got
you
a
can.
little bit of time. It takes 2 seconds to send a message.
But then I actually understood this time. I was like, now I understand. Like you actually physically can't get back to everybody to like thank them. And it was just amazing, like for that recognition, really. It was just incredible.
What was some of the feedback that you had from like the families of the students?
Oh yeah, I mean, and that side of it as well, like with the parents, like one of the girls, her mum was like in tears to us, and she said, you know, when she was born, I was told that she would never walk, or you know, things like that. And now look at her, she's on the stage at Britain's Got Talent, you know, and never ever thought she would get to this point. And like, you know, just so grateful that we could see, you know, the potential in them, and that we'd made kind of their dreams come true, really. I mean, obviously it's all down to their hard work, but I think the parents' reactions is just gets you every time, because a lot, you know, especially in the past, I think people with learning disabilities and autism and Down syndrome were kind of told, oh, well, you know, there won't be anything and they'll never achieve anything. And so to kind of, for them to say to people, yeah, well, we proved you wrong, like, is kind of special, and that we helped that happen is obviously really amazing.
Listen, I think when you take everything into account in terms of your kind of MS journey, and, you know, sometimes the best things come from the smallest little ideas and then they snowball, don't they? And I think the biggest thing for me is just the reason, the kind of purpose and the reason you do what you do. I mean, that there'd have been a lot of things that had to come together, you know, hard work, luck, everything coming together to make that happen. But I think in terms of all you three, and also all the students, are so deserving of having that opportunity to showcase what you've done. Because when I saw it, I thought, wow, like immediately, I mean, I've known you for a long time. We don't speak all the time, but I've known you for a long time. Immediately, my sense was, wow, like, I'm so proud that I've known her and she's doing that now, and it's come from such a good place, especially with going through that kind of MS journey as well, like, and all the stuff that you mentioned there, which must be so difficult. I mean, how do you manage all of that through the whole process? Because that must have been intense. Yeah,
that was difficult, definitely, going through all of that. But I think in times like BGT, I'll run on adrenaline, massively, and energy drinks, and then I will crash. So when it was all over, I didn't get out of bed for 5 days, and I would just wake up I'd sleep for 3 hours, wake up, have a drink, have a bite to eat, and I'd go back. And so, you know, but I knew that was going to happen, and that's fine. So I planned that after, but it's when you kind of stop and give in. But for me, it was when worth it. When the
mind stops and you just think, like, that's the kind of adrenaline rush is gone, you're now on your own, it's like, sink.
Yeah, basically.
So in your 33 years so far, you've been through and done a lot of stuff, right? So as you sit here now, what do you think your biggest fear is for you in your life at the minute? Your biggest fear?
My biggest fear? Probably, like, I guess losing close ones, or like my family and my support system, really. I don't have a fear really with my MS. So some people might think, oh, that my fear would be that I'd end up in a wheelchair and this and that. I don't fear that at all. I think just...
Do you think about that?
No.
You don't fear it because you don't think about it, and you're just super uber positive, and I'm just not going to think about it, I'm going to partition it away and not deal with it? Or have you dealt with the potential of what could happen? Yeah,
I've definitely dealt with the potential of it, but I think I probably do live a very, very optimistic life, and you know, I think some people find that hard to deal with. I've had like close friends that couldn't deal with it in the end, and I think they wanted me to kind of wallow in the self-pity of not doing so well, and so I've lost people through that, that probably don't want to then see you happy and that you are succeeding, but it works for me. So that's the way I live my life, and I am grateful for everything I do have. So you know, whatever will be in the end.
What do you reckon is the lowest point that you've ever had? Because you're a really positive person, you come across really positive. I know this is not just a front, you see it. You know, I've seen it for a long time. What do you think the lowest point you've had?
Maybe it was that time, probably when I did find out I had MS, because at that point I wasn't super positive, and it was probably like the week after that it probably hit me massively, and I had a massive low about it, and then it was almost like, so I did have a low about the MS thing at that point, but then sort of after that, a couple of weeks after, I don't know what happened, but something in my head clicked to get me out of it. But I think, yeah, probably that was, I mean, I'm quite lucky I haven't lost anyone like really close to me, otherwise I would probably say, you know, that. But yeah, probably there I did feel very hopeless. And
so in that 2 weeks when you're feeling really low and hopeless and stuff, and you're not feeling particularly good at all because of the news, it's kind of sunk in, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
What are you doing during that period? Because a lot of people that listen to this that have reached out to me struggle with their own head and thoughts and doing these, you know, different things, depression, mental health and stuff like that, whether they're men or women. You're obviously going through a really low point.
Yeah.
You pulled yourself out at that point. So how did you go from there to
I think when you're in kind of that feeling so low or depressed or anxious, I think it is hard to see a way out 100%, and I understand that, and I've seen that with my dad, as I sort of touched on, having depression and things like that. So I think one thing for me is knowing that things will always get better. I think having that, you know, like knowing that you can feel low for that times, but things will improve and there will be like a new day, I think.
Did you have times in that 2 weeks where you thought that wouldn't happen?
Oh yeah, I'm sure, yeah. Yeah, I think you do when you're having those moments, you do feel that there's no way out, but I think you've just got to ride it through sometimes. And I think, like I've said the whole time, having the support from your family around you is the most important thing. And I think, like, even like with my mum, you know, I think she can probably read me more than anyone, and she'll know, like, even after the BGT thing, or when it all came to an end and I had those 5 days of fatigue, and I probably was quite down then about things, it felt a bit flat, and she sort of will say to me, I know, she can just read it in me, but I think just always knowing that you've got through it before so you can get through it again.
So if somebody is listening to this now is at that low point, what would your kind of bit of advice be for them?
I think, to know that you've been through these times before, and you've felt like that before, which is probably true if you go through, you know, depression, anxiety, and I think to know that you've got through it before and that you can do it again. Yeah, I just think knowing that there's more positive days ahead.
Thinking positive and trying to harness the strength that you've probably been through some tough times before.
Yeah, and pushing through, you know, when you feel like you can, to push through. Like I'm just going back to, like, I remember like having a low time in between like Christmas and New Year. I always find that really hard, that time. Maybe it's because I'm not working.
Maybe, yeah.
And like everything's gone a bit flat.
Yeah.
And I read a book, like I love Bex King. He's a Northampton guy. I think he's fantastic. And I read his book, and that was actually just before I set up BTP. And it was just, so yeah, I think get help and read books and try, and you've got to like push yourself to you have got to push yourself to try and do better. But I know it's hard. It's not that easy when you're feeling low, but yeah.
I think there's more out there now to like help people with doing that, because when I feel bad or negative, or I'm not really helping myself too much, I do one or two or three things. Like I'll either go into the business in and around people that I know will mean that I won't behave in that manner, and immediately I've forgotten about what it is. And although you could say, well, you're just putting on a bit of a front, well, maybe you need to put on a little bit of a front to just get over that little ledge of feeling not very good, and then actually the rest of the happiness throughout the rest of the day is actually genuine. Or watching a video, something on YouTube, something that I'm going to look at, and I do it all the time. Like if I'm in the garage gym that I built up through lockdown, literally, and I posted about it the other day, like if I'm really, really feeling bad, I'll go and do a workout, and I've got a big mirror in that gym. I'm not posing, don't worry. I've got nothing to pose on. But I'll go and literally, between sets of doing stuff, like I'll talk to myself in the mirror. And that sounds weird, but like I'll watch stuff. I'll tell myself that like what the problem is, what the solutions are, and I'll just have that time to myself to reflect. And I feel better. But when I finish that gym session, I've put all my kind of hard work into whatever I'm lifting or whatever I'm running on or whatever, but I've also given myself a little bit of a pep talk, and I'm out, and then I'm done, rather than keeping all of that negativity and that struggle and the worry or the stress or whatever it is I'm worrying about, keeping that in. It's gone. I've shut the garage. That's gone now, and now I'm in the car on the way to work, or now I'm going to go and dog walk with the missus, or now I'm going to go and take kids to school and then go to work, and now I'm going to go to my appointment, and it's done.
Yeah, you've got to get it out, definitely, and not hold it in. I think a big one for me is if I'm having those feelings at night time or whatever, and I probably learned these from the book, is the feeling of gratefulness. You know, it's a massive thing. Like I get into bed and I think, my first one is, what am I grateful for? And I'm grateful that my little boy Blake is in bed, fast asleep, happy, healthy. And then I think anything else after that, you know, is a bonus. So I think the feeling of being grateful is a big thing for me.
That's really interesting, because like it's just reality, isn't it? Like I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people out there that don't have a very good reality, maybe. You know, you can always find the positive in something, I think, but they probably don't have a great reality. Some people do, some people don't. But I think when you're in a difficult period or you're struggling with something specifically, and everyone does, especially if you're running a business, you have it all the time, like the amount of curveballs you throw, people, different things that are going on, stresses, strains, it's like it can get on top of you, and it's got on top of me many times, like recently, years ago, you know, I'm sure it will in the future. It's just everyone's human. But then you go and have that time where you think about what you got, where you've been, your kind of journey to point, and you think, well, actually I'm not doing that bad. And then when you speak to more people that run businesses or more people that have had that kind of experience, every single one, have not met one that hasn't had the same experience. And I didn't know that, because when you work for somebody, you think these guys are just untouchable. They know what they're doing. They just turn up. They'll do a couple of hours. They've got the money, they've got the lifestyle, they've worked hard for it. It's easy for them.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, and then you think, shit, actually, I look back at some of the bosses and think back to certain situations where maybe they've not dealt with it very well. And I can kind of empathise a little bit and think, well, maybe he's just having one of them days where you just want to jump out of a window.
Yeah.
And maybe he's just having one of them days where he's got issues over there and issues over there, and then I've been the 10th person to give him a problem, and then he's gone and snapped.
Yeah.
And you kind of think back and you think, shit.
Yeah, you do. It just put things into perspective when you work for yourself. And I think over the years, I think you end up surrounding yourself with more like-minded people. And I think like nowadays, my close friendship group, like we all... My best friend runs the salon, and we just, you know, we'll ring each other, like we'll miss each other all the time, and then when we get hold of each other, then she'll be like, oh, well, I've been here all like, and I've got this to sort out, I've got the insurance, and now I've got my rates to pay, and then I've got VAT, blah, blah, and I'm like, we're like, why do we do this to ourselves? But we laugh. But, you know, I think having someone that understands and that you can like bounce back with.
Something you've just said there has really made me laugh, actually. I think that's the most common question that a business owner asks themselves. Why do I do this? The amount of time, I love what we do here and what we do with businesses and the podcast and everything. Like, I genuinely, really, really do. I love all the people. I love the customers. I love the buzz of it. The amount of times that I'll sit back and think, Jesus Christ, why do I do this? I mean, it don't last very long. It's like a flippant thing.
It's like an instant...
You ask yourself that all the time. Well, I do anyway. Yeah,
it's that instant thing, like when everything gets on top of you, and you know you've had someone having a moan, or two people having a moan at once, and you're just like, oh, you know, like you just think, what am I doing? But yeah, you
snap back into
it and think, well, you know.
So what's happening with Born to Perform moving forward then? So what's next?
Yeah, well, it's true. It's exciting times. So we've got loads and loads going on. I mean, our guys are like local celebrities at the moment. So we've got like the carnival coming up. We've got loads of performances. We've been asked to perform at various different awards ceremonies and things. And yeah, I think now this kind of BGT thing has like happened and calmed down. I think we're going to look and see what we can do next, and maybe how we can spread the Born to Perform love sort of around a little bit more.
So do you think you've got a load of stuff that's coming off the back of BGT in terms of performances and stuff, and you'll continue to do it because you've always done that, whether it's lockdown or not, haven't you? Are you looking to kind of grow Born to Perform?
Yeah, I think so. I think...
Is it all Northampton based at the minute?
We're Northampton based at the moment. Yeah, I think we'd... And we've had so many people get in contact with... We had someone this week from Inverness, you know, can you come and do this? And I think, yeah, it seems... I just feel like we want to share, you know, and help as many people as possible to enjoy this kind of activity.
Do you guys know how you're going to go about doing that yet? Or are you sort of still in the kind of thinking about options, planning stages of maybe growing it a bit more?
It's going to be a massive learning curve, and I think everything has been so far anyway. I'm literally learning, we all are, every single day, but I kind of love that and I thrive on it. And once you're learning a new thing, I never knew how to do that, and like all the, you know, the boring sides of business, I think it's, you know, yeah, we've got a lot to learn, but we're open to it. So
I think a lot of people out there, when they like, because it's so rare, when they see like genuine euphoria and happiness with ownership of a business, the owners, and how that then drips into the other people that are involved in the business, so your other support people that you have and other teachers that you have and stuff like that, and then that drips then down into the important people, which is the students and the families. Like, what for me Britain's Got Talent has shown for Born to Perform is how much of an impact that you got. It doesn't matter about the views, it doesn't matter about the golden buzzer, but it's the feeling and the proof of the work that you guys do that's come from just a little idea in a living room that's then been created, and actually you're changing the lives of the students, but you're also changing the lives and you're creating genuine bottled happiness in families, friends, and everybody that knows every single person that interacts with Born to Perform. And that's special, and everyone would want to get involved with that. Like, you know, I suppose the options are endless in some, you know, everyone would want a bit of that. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Like, because it's just like when you see genuine light bulb moment, genuine happiness in people and in something or in a business, people flock to it.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's the knock-on effect of everything. Like you said, like it goes from our passion down to, you know, the people that work for us, and then it creates the happy environment. So then when the students go home, then their parents are happy because their child's happy, and it's really just the knock-on effect with everything. And, you know, it could teach us everybody a lot about life, you know, and the importance of this happiness and being kind to each other and trying to better each other, I think. And
so what do you reckon then's been like the top couple of things you've learned from your experience with Born to Perform in running that business? What do you think's the biggest takeaways you've had over the last few years?
I mean, that there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot, I don't mean a lot, I say a lot of negatives, but there's a lot of parts of it that are more difficult than I probably knew that it would be. I think, like, running a business is difficult, being self-employed is difficult, and juggling everything is difficult. But I think in a positive sense, I think I've really learned that there is no boundary. I think until I started doing this, we set this up and did it for ourselves, like, there's nothing to say, no, you can't do it. There's no rule book. Like, we have just genuinely, no matter if we have an idea, we just go for it. We do it. You just put it into practice. And I think, not being scared to just do it, because I think sometimes you worry and think, oh, I don't know if I'm allowed to do that because it hasn't been done. Yeah. Like, just do it.
I think you could take that into a lot of things. You know, if there's some people listening to this, which I know there are, because we speak to people all the time relating to the podcast, people that are thinking about starting something, even if it's small, because everything starts small. It's got to start somewhere. Yeah. Just doing it. There's no real, like, you just got to take the gamble.
Yeah, and I think you can overthink everything so much and think, oh, well, I don't know if I'm allowed to do. You know, like, I don't know who makes the rules of allowed, but I know I've had those feelings before. Like, oh, can I actually just set up a business then? Yeah, you can. You can actually do it. And just putting it into action, I think, pushing yourself and no excuses, just do it.
I like that. No excuses, just do it. That needs to be a quote somewhere. So what's next then so you've spoken about Born to Perform, so what's kind of next for you?
I mean, obviously I'm a mum. I I absolutely love being a mum, but like anything else we spoke about, it's difficult to make time. I'm going to make some family time this summer, because obviously the whole Britain's Got Talent thing has been all-consuming. So I'm going to make some really nice family memories. And then, yeah, I think we've just got a fire in our belly now for Born to Perform, and I don't think we're going to, just leave it there. I think
you're telling everyone to watch out.
Basically,
big stuff coming.
Exactly.
So, okay, so if anyone wants to find you or Born to Perform and kind of reach out and maybe talk about, your MS journey, you want to get some advice on that, or starting a business like you've done with Born to Perform, or to talk in any more detail about your experience on BGT, or anything at all related to what we spoke about today, where can they find you?
Yeah, so Facebook, you can find us on Facebook at Born to Perform Dance and Care Services. We're also on Instagram at borntoperform.danceandcare, and my MS page is mama_with_MS.
And is that Insta?
That's Insta.
That's Insta.
But I have to admit, I have had a little break from that recently, because obviously I'm conserving my spoons, so I haven't
Less Insta spoons.
my Insta spoons. So but now BGT's over, I'll be getting that back up and running.
Yeah, brilliant. No, I've checked out a bit of it as well, and there's some for people that have MS or people that want to know more about it and spreading that kind of awareness, there's some really good personal experiences from some of the posts that you've put on there, and your genuine experiences in detail, which I've read before, and it is eye-opening.
It helps so much, honestly. I've got so many, I follow so many people, and I've got a lot of people that follow me that are of a similar age, and if you didn't know, you wouldn't believe that many young people have MS, and the whole community and social media presence and stuff is just, it's helping so many people.
Yeah, and look, hopefully there's some people that are listening to this today, and if you are listening to this today or watching it today, you can share it and spread that awareness as well, and tagging Kim and Born to Perform in, and hopefully that can help with what's going on there as well. So listen, thanks very much for coming on. It's been good to see you again, talk through bits, and I've known you for a long time, but I've learned a lot from speaking to you again. And yeah, listen, from me and my family as well, because we've known each other for ages, you're doing some great stuff, your family are great, and just really proud of what you've done, what you're going to do as well, because with obviously the BGT, get my words out, the BGT kind of platform that's going to help hopefully propel Born to Perform as well. I think there's such a great opportunity moving forward, just to kind of spread that happiness and spread that energy into what you're doing. So yeah, can't wait to see it.
Thank you so much. It's been so much fun.
Wicked, thanks.